Hi, welcome back to TechRadar. I'm Matt Hanson, Senior Computing Editor.
And I'm Matt Phillips, TechRadar's video producer, and Matt has just reviewed for us the Surface Go 2. Finally, an easy name, a product with an easy name. People always have a go at me in the comments for not remembering the names of stuff. This one's nice and easy. The latest affordable tablet from Microsoft running Windows 10. How exciting. So yeah, Matt, why don't you give us your top level thoughts? Why is it important, I guess, for a tablet to be out in the marketplace that's affordable and running Windows 10?
Well, I think there are quite a lot of when you think of a budget tablet, you think of Android really.
Yeah.
And so there are quite a few affordable Windows 10 tablets. But what is particularly exciting about the Surface Go 2 is that it's a product made by Microsoft, and Microsoft usually, like a bit like Google and a bit like Apple, they like to sort of make flagship products, and so their Surface Pro line, the latest one was the Surface Pro 7, and the Surface Pro X. These are very sleek, slick devices that are also very expensive and are aimed at people with, quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I really like the fact that with the Surface Go 2, like its predecessor, Microsoft is sort of aiming at an audience which I think some of the bigger brands kind of neglect. So it's bringing a sort of quite a classy device, a classy looking device, to a more affordable audience for a more affordable price tag. So that's, I think, very commendable.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on it there slightly with the way it looks and the design of it. So let's dive a little bit deeper into that. How big is this device in comparison to something else that people may have held? You talked about the competitors in comparison to an iPad or whatever it is.
I've got it here, so I'll just so
there we go. We can compare it to your head, Matt.
My head,
huge head.
It's about a one Matt Hanson head.
There we go.
It's quite large.
Standard measurement unit, as far as I'm concerned.
The screen is 10.5 inches, so it's a similar size to the iPad Pro.
Right.
It's quite thick. It's not like the thinnest tablet, but it's a good weight. It's a good size. And it's just solidly built.
Yeah, I can see that the thickness, obviously, potentially part of that is because of the ports that are running alongside it. So why don't you talk us through what ports has it got, what inputs has it got?
Yep. So as you can see on this side, it's got that is a proprietary Surface. I think it's Surface Connect power supply. I think that's what they're called.
Right.
So that has, I can probably find it. I'm not having this in the thing, but it's like a magnetic attachment that you just sort of like clicks in. It's quite a nice effect, and then you can pull it and it doesn't break it. It'll just come off quite nicely. It also means you're supposed to be able to quite easily find and insert it in.
Similar to the old MacBooks, right?
Yeah, very much so. Whenever I see a proprietary charging port, I then worry, does that mean that you're always going to have to bring that charger with you? And if you don't have it with you, if the battery dies, you're in trouble. But what I do like is that it also has a USB-C port, and that can actually be that can be used to charge the tablet as well, which is really nice, and it's also got a audio jack for headphones and microphones and stuff like that, which I think a lot of companies these days kind of don't include.
Yeah, and I think important to include it if you're going to make a budget device like this. You can't expect people to have true wireless, super expensive headphones as well, can you? So I think that makes sense.
That's nice. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And then continuing on the design considerations we've been talking about, how durable does it feel? You worry with these kind of budget devices that the slightest gust of wind is going to cause them to crack in half or something. So does it feel kind of premium enough and durable
it does.
enough?
I mean, I think its thickness actually helps with that. It just doesn't feel like something you put in your pocket and bend like certain other rival products have had issues with in the past. So it's very solidly built. It's nicely built as well. I think Microsoft, even though they're predominantly a software company, its reputation with hardware is growing, and I think it, for good reason. It's a nice feeling. It is a bit heavier than your iPad, but it does going to bend. It doesn't feel overly brittle or flimsy. And I think because of the price point, which we'll get to in a minute, this is something that you probably give to students or to kids, not terribly young kids, but to do their homework on. So you want something which feels like it'll last a bit. It's got Gorilla Glass screen as well. I wouldn't want to sort of drop it from any great height, but I think that should give you a bit of extra protection.
Yeah, it's not going to scratch up too easily, so that's decent. So then moving on. Sorry, go on.
Well, yeah, I was just going to suggest, just before we get finished the design, we've got on the bottom. This is this is like the Type Cover Connect, I think it's called.
Okay.
So this is, if you can see, but it's got like little magnets. And this is if you've got the Type cover, which is quite a nice looking cover with a keyboard and trackpad included. If you have that, sorry, I knocked my microphone. If you have that and you can just easily collect it, and it's magnetic, and it's a nice little thing which connects up very easily, very easy to attach it, and then you can remove it. And it doesn't feel like it's just going to quickly fall apart.
Nice, very nice. And obviously that's an accessory that's going to be much sought after for, like you say, if they're kind of gearing this towards students and that sort of audience, then they're going to be after that kind of accessory. What other accessories are available with this? I know obviously we've got the iPad Pro and the infamous Apple Pencil. Does Surface have a version of that?
Yeah, it's got a Surface Pen.
There it is.
Which is about $100, £100. You can also get like a mobile mouse, like Microsoft do a lot of.
Yeah.
Accessories like that. That's Bluetooth, so you can connect it up quite easily. But none of those are included with the price.
Yeah, which is a bit of a shame, right? You're kind of gearing this affordable tablet, and all of a sudden, if you want to get the absolute most out of it, you're going to have to spend some money on some accessories as well. But let's move on to performance for now then. So like we said, this is a Windows 10 laptop, but as far as I'm aware, it comes by default running Windows 10 S. So can you talk a little bit about the difference between those two and why that is?
Yeah, sure. So Windows 10S mode is it's a pared back version of Windows 10, which means you can't just download anything off the internet. You have to install it through the Microsoft Store, which is their little app store that comes with any version of Windows 10. And the idea behind that is that everything in the Windows Store, a bit like the App Store on iOS, and a bit like the Google Play Store on Android devices, that everything that is put on that site on the store is vetted by Microsoft. So it should mean that there's no nasty viruses or anything like that. And they're run in they call it kind of like a sandbox. So it's kind of put away separate from your system files and everything. So if someone managed to put a malicious app on the Microsoft Store, the idea would be that even if you installed it and ran it, it shouldn't do too much damage. It shouldn't get access to your important files. So Microsoft's argument with that is that Windows 10S mode is a lot more secure, especially for people with kids and students, because they can't just download anything off the internet and run apps which will have sort of nasties hidden. It also, the apps in the Windows, it used to be called the Windows Store, it's now the Microsoft Store. The apps in the Microsoft Store are a lot more like the apps you'd find on Android and iOS devices, which means they're a lot more lightweight. So, you could argue they're a bit more simple, a bit more restricted.
Yeah.
It also means that with the kind of specifications that a budget device like the Surface Go 2 has, it can run them without any problems. Whereas if you start putting on Photoshop or some of these more complex apps, the Surface Go 2 will start struggling with that. And just the final thing was also, some of the Microsoft say, is that the apps are sort of tuned to be a bit more battery friendly as well. So they argue that if you stick with Windows 10S mode, you're more secure, it runs a bit better, and the battery lasts longer.
But if you're looking to get more out of the device, you can activate full Windows 10. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's free. You can do that quite easily, and it doesn't charge anything, which is pretty good. And then you can just download and install any app that you would, any program that you would on a normal Windows 10 PC, which is great. It gives a bit of flexibility, but that's when you might sort of start finding that this tablet isn't the most powerful. And so, yeah, you can install Steam and put some games on it, but it's not going to play them well. So
yeah, sorry, go on.
Balancing act. It's a bit of a balancing act for anyone.
Sure, that makes sense to me. And so let's chat about the specs then a little bit. So the base unit is $399, And what sort of specs does that come with?
So the base model is a bit limited. So it comes with it's a dual core Intel Pentium Gold processor. So it's one which is designed for low powered devices. So, and dual core these days isn't going to blow anyone's mind when it comes to performance.
Sure.
Also, this model comes with 4 GB of RAM, which I think is the very sort of lowest amount of RAM you'd want to go with Windows 10. Personally, I'd rather have 8 GB of RAM, and it starts with 64 GB of storage as well, which again is going to fill up very quickly if you start having photos and videos on the device. So whilst that bottom price $399 is very good and is very competitive, you would actually want to tweak a few things, and it allows you to have other slightly more powerful configurations. So you can get it. The one I reviewed has 8 GB of RAM, has 128 GB SSD, the same processor, and just that gives it a bit more future proofing, gives it a little bit more performance. But the price then rises, and you're looking at $550.
$550, and then of course there is another version as well up from that, which comes with a SIM card holder and LTE support, and then that's $730. So all of a sudden, we've jumped massively, kind of out of this affordable kind of low end price range of tablets, and I wonder if at that price point that we find ourselves at now, is this worth it? And are there other competitors out there that you should maybe be looking at instead?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So I think at that $750, you're then competing, and this is tablet only. You're then competing with like the iPads, which I think offer far better performance.
Right.
But they don't have that flexibility with Windows 10. But the App Store has just got a huge amount of choice anyway. But also this important thing is that this is all, whenever we quote prices for it at the moment, that is without the touch cover, which turns it into a laptop-like device, and a lot of people are going to want that. That's an extra $100.
Yeah.
So then you're looking at $850. You can get a very nice laptop for that.
Yes, very true, very true.
Or a 2-in-1, from the likes of Acer.
So then I was going to ask, who do you think this device is really for? Who should be considering buying this? Because, we talked about students at the start of this, but if students are going to buy sort of the base model, like you say, they're going to want to add that keyboard, they're going to want to add that pencil, potentially, which takes the price up. So who is this tablet right for, and which SKU should people be looking at getting?
I think for sort of students who kind of want something where they can just carry it around, it's got fantastic battery life. It's about 8.5 hours battery life with some of our tests, so that'll last you a whole school day.
Yeah, of course.
And I think if you're happy enough keeping it in Windows 10s mode for like browsing the web, doing a few note taking, Microsoft, as you can imagine, how they've got all their Office apps are available on the store. So, and I think some of them are free. You can, so you can run like Word quite well. And so I think for students, it's an excellent choice. And I think you probably would want to get the type cover as well. So, but even then, it's still a pretty good value. But for people who want something that they can lie on their sofa and have a tablet, which they can also, open up a few apps here and there, and they don't necessarily need the power or the type cover, then it's a pretty great choice. And you can always buy the cover later on, and if you feel
exactly.
Or you can hook up a Bluetooth keyboard. You could buy a $20 Bluetooth keyboard and hook it up, or even plug it in via the USB-C port. So
yeah, and I guess just having the option of Windows 10 there just makes it that bit more viable than a typical Android tablet or what have you.
It does. Yeah, definitely. The only thing is I would just urge people a bit of caution with the $399 base model, just because of the 4 GB and 64 GB hard drive limits. Because I think as long as you go into it knowing its base specs and what it's good for, which is just basic day-to-day stuff, then you'll probably be fine with that. But if you're a bit more ambitious, you're going to get very frustrated, I think, with that 4 GB and 64 GB limitations.
Brilliant. Well, if you have any questions about this tablet, please do drop in the comments down below. We'll try and answer as many as we can. But also head to the link in the description where you can read Matt's full review on techradar.com.